Welcome to our business webinar program presented by Bank of America. Today's session is Unlocking AI's Business Potential. We know that this is a very buzzy topic, and we've heard you, and we are here to answer some of those questions. So today we are going to be learning how to leverage the AI that's already embedded in some of your favorite tools and discover how some of the newer tools can help your business scale. And when we say newer tools, we're talking really about those generative AI programs like ChatGPT. And if you remember, your registration email included a wonderful article from UNESCO about the challenges of AI. And today, our presenter is going to talk about some of the policy and ethics implications of some of these newer programs. There's so much changing. We're developing really quickly, so it's great to have this primer. And so I'm excited to bring that all to you today. I'm Desiree Brown, Senior Manager of Digital Education and Content here at the Tory Burch Foundation, and I'm so excited to be here today with Jacqueline Tangora. Jacqueline started her career as a financial auditor and technology consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers, but is the founder and CEO now of Omni Business Intelligence Solutions. She has driven her firm to specialize in AI-driven data-centric solutions, and she also uses AI for creative work. So we are in really good hands today. And I'm excited for you to hear more from Jackie about where she's been and what she's doing, how she's helping her clients. So just a quick reminder, after her presentation, we will have plenty of time for Q&A. So we want to get all of your questions, but please be sure to put them in the Q&A box. And remember that the chat is for connecting with each other, all that great networking that we're so used to seeing happening during our sessions. We will get to as many questions as we can at the end. I urge you all to take notes as we're going through. And as a quick reminder, today's session is being recorded, so please watch your inboxes for replay links and some follow-ups from Jackie. And with that, over to you. Let's get started.
Awesome. Well, you guys can hear me, right? Just checking. Perfect.
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. Well, first off, I want to say thank you to the Tory Burch Foundation for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really, really excited to be here because we're going to be talking about some incredibly relevant and very, very important information, topics for small business owners to be up to date on as relates to the world of AI. Truthfully, it's going to be a packed session today, and we will definitely have time for Q&A at the end. So if you don't get all of your questions answered, just please take advantage of, there's going to be a 15-minute consultation that I'm offering through the foundation as well for the next 2 weeks. Feel free to book, it goes directly to my calendar. And that could be an excellent opportunity for you to get some questions that you might have had today, or just learn more about, hey, this is my specific technology stack that I have in my business. How would AI plug into this? So please take advantage of that. And then also after this webinar, the slides will be made available too, so you can flip through those. There's a lot of extra information that I have in the appendix because we have a short period of time today. So I wanted to focus on hitting kind of a broad range of different topics and concepts for you guys to be thinking about. But more importantly, I didn't want to not include some really important information. So the appendix is filled with lots of great slides, with lots of great strategies for you. And lastly, in terms of our audience today, we do have, it's tailored more for small businesses, specifically if you are a solopreneur, startup looking to scale and grow your business. I know we do have some folks here that are looking to, that might be from enterprise backgrounds. I think you might find some interesting crossover concepts and strategy here that you might want to leverage in your businesses as well. But primarily, this is for those potentially pre-revenue and solopreneurs and startups that might not have, tons and tons of cash to be spending on AI tools. So really hopeful that that there's some really interesting and insightful takeaways for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. Desiree gave me a great introduction, so I think I'll be quite brief here. My name is Jacqueline Tangora, CEO and founder of Omni Business Intelligence Solutions. We are a boutique business intelligence consulting firm, so we really work and specialize in helping small businesses and enterprises make informed data-driven decisions. Before Obis, I worked at PwC. I started my career as a financial auditor, have a CPA license in New York State, and then actually wound up pivoting to do technology consulting at PwC after 5 years or so. Then I eventually resigned to launch my own company called Obis. Obis originally started as a business intelligence firm that was strictly focused, and we still serve in the business intelligence world. But I think, like many people, on November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT launched, I made a conscious decision to pivot my business and to start offering lots of small business owners training and education services, strategic and implementation services in the world of generative AI. That decision alone enabled me to really scale a little bit more quickly than I initially thought was possible. I share this for two reasons, because it's really important, especially in this world where AI tools are popping up left and right and everyone's talking about it, to be making important decisions on how you want to be pivoting within your business to transform your business in a very positive way. So whether you're opening a new service line or you're figuring out how you're going to reimagine existing process within your business, you have to be willing to put the time in, but you want to be making strategic pivots that are really, really powerful. The second reason why I share my story is because you don't have to go to school for AI and machine learning in order to be a business leader or business owner that effectively understands it and knows how to appropriately use it within your own business. So with that being said, I did speak a lot about strategy. So we're going to start with one of my favorite slides that I use with my clients and how we just kind of initially get oriented over what does readiness look like. So lots of small businesses, especially even mine too, like initially was thinking like, what does it even look like to grow using AI? And that question was a repeatable theme that I kept hearing over and over and over again from my clients. And it made me think, okay, so if we're serving small businesses, what are the expectations? Like, what are the steps? What are the steps for growth for them in the world of AI adoption? And so, looking at this slide, and like I said, many of us probably will fall into the emerging SMBs category here. It's really interesting to kind of figure out what steps should I be taking initially. And,
Oh,
you might,
Jackie,
yeah.
sorry, just popping in here. We're not seeing your slides. I don't
Oh,
know.
they didn't share? I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Let's see. Okay. You guys should see it now. Sorry about that.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. You didn't miss much on the other slide. It's just a slide about my business. This is really just where it starts. So the first category on the left is really just where you're going to want to focus and see what can be automated, right? And when you think about invoicing, email management, customer support, maybe chatbots, calendar management, social media management, what are the low-code tools that I can be using to build automations? And so just kind of getting comfortable initially with asking those questions about your business and knowing what type of tools are out there that can help you use, really be effective in building out automations. So whether you're using Zapier or Google Apps Scripts or Power Automate or virtual agents, no matter whatever it is, it's important to be thinking about what are the tasks or processes within my business I can start to automate. The second piece is extremely important. Most businesses don't always recognize the power of having dashboards and having these data analytic tools set up. Because whether you're using Looker Studio or Power BI or Tableau, whatever that looks like, you need to get comfortable starting to make business decisions based off of the data that's coming into your business. Web traffic data, maybe from Google Analytics, your marketing data, if you're running campaigns, right? Like, what does that look like? How can you get it into a unified view so you can start to see your business? Why is this important? And why does this have to do with AI? Is because I find more likely than not, people that are resistant towards having dashboards or having tools in place that are data-driven and they're making decisions based off of them, those people that are making decisions are more quickly and more apt to want to invest in AI tools and want to learn that world a little bit more quickly than someone that is like, I'm going to just go with my intuition. I know what we made in revenue this month. I have a feeling I know, blah, 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 but the data could be telling you a whole different story. And so using data analytics tools actually primes you in a way where you feel comfortable in starting to understand what's happening in your data, even before you try to automate it, augment it, accelerate it, or any of that stuff. Third is getting comfortable with automated marketing, right? I think many of us probably use tools like MailChimp, HubSpot, or anything that really just enables us to get our brand out there, get our messaging out there, and connect with buyers or prospects. There are tons and tons of AI tools that are in these existing platforms to date. So whether you know about them or not, we'll go through in a couple slides talking about how some of these tools actually can be useful. But again, like learning about what are you paying for? What subscriptions are you paying for? And what are features or tools in these subscriptions worth your time looking at and trying to figure out how you can get comfortable with them? Canva Magic Studio is huge. I think a lot of small businesses, if they're not, should be using a tool like this. Extremely disruptive. I mean, it's basically like having a graphic designer on your team, and enables you to create on-brand things. And there's AI-powered features within that too. So you can have like your text to video, text to image, things that they now rolled out within their Magic Studio. And that's another example of just embracing that type of technology and getting used to it within your business. And the last one is just a given, right? ChatGPT, I think many of us have already started to play around with it. We all know, and if you don't know, I highly advise you take a course or something in learning about the many different ways people are using it today. Because I can guarantee you people are not just using it for writing marketing, scripts or, email writing. There's like thousands of use cases for how large language model technology like ChatGPT or Claude 3 or Google's Gemini or Microsoft Copilot Pro can actually be used for content creation, right? Translation if you're operating in different languages, localization of languages, sales strategy, thought leadership, emails, data analysis, which you'll see an example later, and then third-party plugins where you can actually use these tools to speak to other areas of your business through, actions or automations you can build in. And really the main difference between the emerging and the growing and the established is obviously, as you grow, your marketing, your IT spend grows with that. But the expectation over AI readiness and adoption starts to grow too. And what that means is that you'll be looking at more personalized, more proprietary style work that could be more custom or fine-tuned to your business model, whether you have a custom machine learning predictive model, or you're leveraging, anything that's a little bit more complex and proprietary. You might be leveraging those APIs, which speak to these foundational models like OpenAI's ChatGPT's model, GPT-4, or Claude 3, Anthropic's model, or Google's Gemini model. And you could be building, not just using it within the chatbot interface environment that I think we're all used to now, but even then, so like building off of that foundational model and integrating it into our own technology in our business. So whether that's in the form of a chatbot or something else that's custom within our business, there are different ways to interact with these models. And as you start to scale and grow, you might find that you might want to interact with them directly in that type of a setting versus using it, strictly through a one-on-one conversational chat setting. And there's obviously, there's differences, and we'll go through that in a little bit too, and how you can do that. But really, expectation grows in that way in terms of complexity of AI integration. Data integration changes too, because as you grow your business, more likely you have a lot more systems in place. And that means that there's more data points being collected. And that means that you need to consider how you're going to integrate that data into some sort of a relational database or some sort of a unified view in your business. And how are you going to use AI and machine learning around that too? So, and lastly, training and education, right? So thinking about training and education for your workforce, because, you can, I guess, autonomous vehicle days, like if you bought a car and you told them to, put gasoline in the car, but no one has a license to drive the car, how's that car going to go, right? So you need to enable people as you grow your business and train them and educate them on what's actually important in terms of understanding these tools and how to use them. Okay. We're going to move now to like use case definition. I think that this is one of the most important parts of finding out the different areas of how to use AI in your business. I found this to be an extremely helpful framework for my clients because so often finding use cases is a challenge. Sometimes things come quick, like to your mind, right? Like, oh, I'm always get stuck on this weekly. But whether you look at your business in terms of different departments, so marketing, sales, IT, whatever, right? Or you look at it in terms of processes, however you fragment your business in terms of getting oriented over the different characteristics or areas of it, I highly recommend you start to think through this lens too, because this is an excellent way to get organized on building out use cases for finding areas for AI adoption. So automation, all that strictly means is that you found an area of your business where you can automate it, right? There's no human interaction or input. Augmentation is you might not be looking to necessarily make it faster, but you're looking to try and increase the output quality of it. And that could be something that, you know, whether it's your branding or your messaging, or maybe a more personalized experience, right? And then acceleration is how can we get this information faster, but we still want to be a part of the process because it's incredibly important for our decision making and our awareness of our own business to be a part of that. And so if you were to sit down at a whiteboard for your own business, you know, whether you look at department by department or like I said, processes or however, I would go one by one and say, you know, where are areas that we want completely, like we want to step away. We don't want human intervention here. We find that this is just a low value task. It's repeatable. Let's just find a way to automate it. You know, what is an area that we could be better at? Do we feel like we miss the mark when it comes to branding ourselves, or do we not feel like we have the right data records that could be as enriched as possible? So thinking about that for augmentation. And then acceleration, same thing. How can we speed this up, but still be a part of it? So, you know, data insights. We want information faster, but we want to be able to make the decisions on directionally where we take that information in our business. Okay. So now my favorite part, tools. And there's 2 slides of these, so I'm going to try and, you know, pick and choose some of the really important ones to talk about. ChatGPT, Copilot, great tools for multi-use. You know, you're going to get so many different types of features and the ability to interact with these tools in different ways. They're called, you know, multimodal tools for a reason. Different inputs you can put in, images, text. Eventually, you know, we're going to see video inputs. Just that's constantly changing, and that's a trend for 2024. So you will be able to use those models in so many different ways. Perplexity AI is great for market research, excellent tool for showing you just really good browsing capabilities to the internet, I think, compared to some of the other AI tools out there. DALL-E is embedded into ChatGPT if you pay for it, but great image generation model for, you know, creative concepts or creative design and media assets for your business. Midjourney, same thing, right? If it's a separate application, and a lot of these are like $20 a month, give or take a little bit, but Midjourney separate, but same type of functionality. Firefly's AI is excellent for transcription. So glad it didn't show up to the meeting today, but often it really does show up to a lot of my meetings. And it gives you your action items, summaries, you know, breaks things down for you. And it's like having, you know, project manager or note taker that's just kind of listening in and supporting, you know, a lot of the dialogue throughout a meeting. Hey Jen is wild. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you're someone that wants to create educational content, maybe get it posted on social media and you don't have a lot of time to film, you can create a digital twin or an avatar of yourself. And all you have to do after that avatar is, you know, it's trained on your face and your voice. You could just put like into a text box, right? And have it say whatever it is that you want it to say. It's a blessing and a curse. Obviously, we know people out there will not use this the way it should be used, but for your business, you could be pumping out content without even, you know, having to film. Notion, I've heard great things about in terms of calendar management, project management, all of that stuff. Great for teams. Canva Pro, excellent for media asset, like on brand generation. You're probably saying, I know some of these tools. Well, there's so much AI in these tools, and these vendors are constantly upping their game because they're competing with one another, and they're rolling out new AI features like every month. I'm not even kidding at this point. So Magic Studio is Canva's generative AI area of the platform itself, where you might be able to do that text to image, text to video type style prompting. Descript Pro is awesome for video editing. So instead of having to clip things one by one in a video where you have like the whole video tape, right? And then you can split it out, the clips, you edit by the text. So the actual translation of the audio itself. I think that this is really helpful and time saving, huge, especially, if I got this recording and I counted all the times I say, or you can clip those out. So it makes it easy. Just highlight the word, you delete it, and it gets removed from the audio. So I know a lot of people that actually use that for business, for quick and easy editing. And Viral Finder is a great tool if you're big on social media and you're trying to, if you're a content creator and you're trying to grow your business through that lens. It's an excellent tool for seeing other accounts online that are in your niche area and see which ones are actually trending and going viral and what type of content they're producing. So you can start to see, what crossover audiences you have and how that actually might be helping you inform your strategy on creating content. On this slide, I'll highlight a few of these. Power BI, Power Automate, totally non-negotiable, especially if you're in the Microsoft tech stack. You should 1000% be using all the BI, business intelligence, and AI related features within Power BI. Power Automate, it's just like, we were talking about this before, like a Zapier, or just really enables you in a low, no code setting to build out automations so that you can create workflows, integrate different apps into one another. So really, really cool. Lucid's good for process diagrams. So I use this as a consultant because often I have to map out flows for clients. And you could do a text, you can describe the flow, and it can create an organizational chart for you in 2 seconds. But you want to be really descriptive over the hierarchy of things in your text. MailChimp, HubSpot, highly recommend. We'll look at MailChimp in a little bit. Just kind of getting comfortable. You could go to Google and say, MailChimp AI features or HubSpot AI features, and just type that in and see what's new. What are they rolling out? A lot of these things are in beta now, so they're not even charging for it. So I tell people, definitely important to be mindful over, what you're paying for and what you have access to. And then if they do start to bill for things, if you're on beta plan or, trial, that if you're going to be billed for something or not. Some of these other are just typical great communications tools, but I think what's important about this is that understanding where there's integration possibilities where certain components of your areas can be speaking to others. Zapier is huge for another great automation building. If you go to Zapier's website and you just type in any one of the technologies that you use in your business, I think you'd be surprised to see how many different integrations that they probably already have set up that you could be using to automate different processes within your actual business structure itself. Supermetrics is expensive, but if you're a marketing agency or you're someone that's very heavily invested in your marketing efforts and you have different platforms you're running campaigns on, this is an excellent tool for you to have. It's a data connector, but it grabs the information from, Facebook ads, Instagram, TikTok ads, wherever you're running ads, and bringing it into a dashboard view for you. So if you want to see your marketing efforts and see, your return on ad spend, campaign performance, this is a great connector to have at your fingertips. Or even I think there's other ones that are a little bit cheaper, but similar in nature that will enable you to see all the information you want to see in terms of your marketing. And then the other ones really, I think I just want to call out CapCut. If you're trying to up your video game in terms of having high quality content videos online, every major content creator uses CapCut. AI powered templates, amazing video editing. It's actually wild to see what you can do by yourself without hiring a video editor. Unfortunate, right? Because we all know job displacement's a risk, but there's certain risks and things that kind of balances out when we have tools like this that we're trying to be smart with our money as small businesses and see where we can really take advantage of things that make us grow and help our brand just really be resilient online. And lastly, Gamma, if you're in need of some high quality presentations, this is a text to presentation tool. Excellent for high quality presentations. All right, so pricing. I won't beat this one up to death, but I'm going to leave you guys with two really important concepts here. One, the general rule of thumb is, and I say general because every company now is doing different things. So you have to really, really pay attention to what they're saying in terms of conditions and all of that stuff, service agreement, just the terms of service. So basically, if you're paying for something, whether you're paying for the chatbot interface, you're paying for the more advanced model, or you're paying by means of using their APIs, which are calling back and forth to the foundational models of ChatGPT-4 or Claude, you more likely than not, and right now the answer is you are protected in terms of them not training on your data. So you kind of have to pay for proprietary privacy. If you're doing something for free, right? Or sorry, if you're using a tool that is free right now, you can probably assume that they're training on your data. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind and obviously read everything. In terms of like large language model pricing, this is a little bit different because it's not as fixed as here's my monthly subscription cost month over month. If you're using the APIs, which stands for Application Programming Interface, all that really is a communication. It's in a development world where you can actually communicate back and forth between a foundational model and between any interface that you have in your own business. You can create applications based off of the foundational models. You could do so many things with the API, but the pricing works in terms of tokens, and you get billed by how many tokens are being used. All tokens really are groupings of words or singular words, however the model decides to splice it and look at it. But each time you call into the model, you are calling, you're getting billed for that. And then each time the model outputs information, you're getting billed for that as well. So, it adds up over time. And that's why some people are really conscientious, as they should be, in terms of making sure, hey, is this the right investment for us? Because, if we put a chatbot on our website and our prospects or customers, anyone's using it, and we're using it based off of the OpenAI model, and it's based off of that model, the API that we have built off it, we have to kind of allocate and budget for how many times do you think this is going to be called, or should we have an input or an output type, max or min? It's a lot of thought that needs to go into that because pricing can get pretty crazy. And the more complex models, the higher quality models are more expensive in terms of the API pricing. And then obviously the lower quality models that are not as advanced are a little bit cheaper. And then obviously development costs would go into building anything that's custom for your business. But I feel like most of us probably lean between chatbot and maybe potentially some API usage. Okay, so I want to focus real quick on looking at one component of MailChimp. So I don't know if any of you guys are actually using this today, but MailChimp is now offering an excellent text to pretty much creating an automation within MailChimp flow. And they're calling it, their Intuit MailChimp Assistant. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's a great functionality. It's free right now. It might not be free down the road, depending on the users and how they feel that it's actually helpful or not. But I would tell you play around with this, because if you spend a lot of time building flows, new emails or, invitation, or grab this email, add it to my CRM or anything like that, then I would tell you definitely try and get comfortable with this and start to see how it works for you, because this is a generative technology that they've just launched in their tool. Another thing, as I tell any one of my clients, when we are using these generative technologies in these platform-specific tools, you really want to be mindful over how you prompt, because it's not the same as just prompting in ChatGPT. You really want to be able to start to actually talk in the language of MailChimp or Canva, because the more you're trained, the more you understand their jargon, the better quality outputs you're going to get in terms of building a flow. Or, in Canva, They have Magic Studio, where you can actually start to see different generative AI capabilities, which are one of the ones that really kind of stand out to me is like their, let me just see, it's up, I missed it. It's their text to video, right? Which is based off of the Runway model. It's another company, Runway, that has this type of technology. And then text to image. And then also they have other features like Magic Expand. This is a generative fill. So if you have a really, really small image for your business and you're like, I really need to extend it, you can drop it in and it by default will read the image and process it and say, well, what would be the most logical way to expand this, without really altering the resolution and stuff. So think about these types of tools, and a lot of these are under Pro. So I think if you're not paying for Pro, this is absolutely worth an investment, is getting Pro to try out these generative tools. Adobe's doing the same thing, and they have Adobe Generative Fill. Everyone's doing similar stuff. So if you're in Canva, I would tell you start to play around, start to look at Magic Studio. If you're in MailChimp, I would tell you start to look at this Intuit Assistant. That's really available now. And if you really love GPT or Chat GPT, I think you should try this because you'd be interested to find, if you're paying for it, I think you have to pay for this one too. So if you're paying for ChatGPT 4, which is $20 a month, you will find it interesting. You can actually create your own GPT. Now, I think I have it here. So this is a really important URL, chat.openai.com, GPT's editor. This is actually where you can create your own GPT specific to your business. So whether you want to create it on your, put description and instructions, what does it do? How does it advise you? How does it partner with you? You kind of put that information in here. And then when it comes down to like actions, you can actually create ways for it to interact with other components of your business. So for example, you can have a way where it can integrate with your calendar. And so Zapier shows you that they have an integration where they actually help you have a way so that if you're in ChatGPT and you want it to update a calendar invite or add a new one or add someone to it or tell you what's on your calendar for the day, you can use this configuration, actually call it in. And it's incredible that you can actually have access in a chat environment to your calendar. And that's just one use of it in terms of calendar, right? There's so many actions that you can create in your own personal GPT world that will have the ability to integrate with other things that you're already used to in your business. You just want to kind of research and see, what type of integrations are out there and worth, looking at. So, okay. All right. So talking about crafting prompts. I think, we've heard a lot, probably seen a lot online, great frameworks that are research-backed, AI research-backed. Extremely important to have a background on is this COSTAR and visual framework. We're not going to go through visual because it's, image, but I want to focus on COSTAR for you guys. Context, objective, style, tone, audience, response. Absolutely worth understanding how to prompt in this way because your outputs are just going to be significantly higher quality, more than I think you'd actually expect it to be if you are speaking to the language model in this particular way. The best type of prompts are a combination of having a framework and having a technique. So the framework is the COSTAR framework. When you're crafting a prompt, you want to consider these components. But also techniques can be role-based. They can be, you can do chain of thought, and you can do 0, 1, 2 shot. Now, what does all this mean? Role-based is as simple as telling the model what you want it to act as. So if you want the model to act as a chef of 35 years with experience, trained in creating, incredible cuisines, Michelin star style, right? You would expect that whatever output you get is kind of that mindset. Chain of thought is actually chain of thought and shot prompting are the two types of techniques that AI researchers use, even like OpenAI research too. They use to understand the performance of the model and the outputs. So getting comfortable with these types of techniques is it's going to level things up for you significantly. So chain of thought just means like, instead of telling it what you want it to be, just more so say like, here's something I want you to do. Walk me through this step by step. And that step-by-step enables you to see how the model thinks. It enables for you to actually understand where you might want to interject and refine something or make an adjustment. But that actually is huge because then you can kind of see the different pathways for how the models think, and you can refine how you speak to the model even more so. And all shot prompting is providing examples. So if you provide no examples, that's called zero shot. If you provide one example, you're actually getting you're probably going to get a better output because you're telling the model, I want you to do this. Oh, and by the way, here's an example of something I already approve of, right? Now, if you do that twice, you're just really showing the model what it is you're looking for. It's like trying to explain something or training someone, right? The more you help someone get there, the more they're actually going to get exactly what it is that you're looking for. So we'll do a quick walkthrough of an example. I don't know what this is. Okay. So really just focusing on now using the COSTAR framework. So I say I want to create a dashboard, but before I create that dashboard, let me give some context to the model. So I start with telling the model, hey, you're an expert in data analysis. You're in charge of performing exploratory data analysis, which is like general, summary statistics and just understanding the data. There's no PII in this data. Everything's normalized. The 2 years we're looking at are 2024 and 2025. Take your time, which is a technique that actually really does work. And this is the type of data we're working with, right? Here's the actual file, the attachment. So when you pay for ChatGPT-4, you can upload files. So you can actually upload a file, and that's what I did for this example. I have it actually here, but when you reshare the links from OpenAI, they actually don't show you the links and stuff. So I figured I would just stay here for right now. But more importantly, giving that objective, produce a high quality dashboard, telling it style, telling it tone, telling the audience. The audience is not staff. It's for high level executives. So we want to keep things super clean, aesthetic, clear, concise, to the point. And the final output is a dashboard. Sidebar, I did ask in that environment for it to also generate an agenda for me as well. And so you'll see on this slide that it actually produces a dashboard based off of this data set that I uploaded. I didn't even tell it what visualizations I wanted, and I could have, right? I could have been very specific over what it is that I wanted, but I wanted to see how it would have taken that on its own. And then what I really found to be interesting here was all I told it was to create an agenda for a board meeting. And it created an agenda based off the data insights here derived going one by one on each one of these visuals. But what I love that it did was it actually gave actions, because I think many of us know that no executive or anyone wants to be presented with a list of problems or issues without forms of solutions and corrections to implement. So I like the fact that it did that too. And so that's something I could have probably added into my prompt, is having what's the follow-up plan from here based off of the data that I shared. And this is actually using like the data analysis model, which is embedded into ChatGPT-4 for if you're paying for that right now. So really cool way of just getting a clear, concise output, and starting to understand how these models work and how we can speak to them. And speaking of speaking to them, I think a lot of us have this question: how do we ensure that prompts are actually protected and are not feeding proprietary information? Well, the most important thing that you can do is really follow different best practices, but the ones that I boiled it down to are these 5 really important ones. 1, read all the terms of service, privacy policies, understand what each company is standing for in terms of what data they're collecting, how are they sharing it. And if you don't want to do that and it's too long, then I would say, if you have a lawyer, maybe have them look at it, but you can take it and dump it into one of these models, right? Have it summarized for you and ask the AI, say like, I am concerned that my data may or may not be used appropriately. If I upload this information, what are the terms of using this model right now, and dump in the whole privacy policy and the terms of service, right? So it can actually call out to you what risks you have. And just real quick, like, I think it's interesting that here are just some like really important data points. This is in our appendix too, that you guys will see. that I would recommend redacting or anonymizing in order to do any data uploads or prompting or anything. These are things that you probably would not want yourself or anyone on your team putting into the model, even if you are using paid models, just a best practice, especially if you're concerned. But there are also options too, like in ChatGPT's 4, there's a settings bar where you can actually just click the data controls and opt out and improving the model for anyone, right? You can click off. You can just anonymize your data, right? You can find a way to do that before uploading it. And lastly, just workforce best practices. So people that work in your organization, make sure whoever has access to it is trained on best practices. And if you feel like people are going to use these models and you're not providing a place for them to use it within your company or in your workspace, your world, you're creating a way for them to misuse the data that you have in your business or your clients' businesses. So it's a balance, but you really want to think about how you can create that safe place. And a lot of these companies, like especially OpenAI, have these things called workspaces now, where you can have a team workspace that you share and you can actually see everyone's chats and you can see how everyone's interacting with these models. So there's some form of oversight. Okay, so this was just my wanting to see what's going on in the world today. I actually wound up taking all the privacy policies from the top large language models right now in the world and evaluating them. So I put it into ChatGPT, which I honestly thought was going to be biased because it was part of the experiment. But interestingly enough, it actually called out a lot of these key components on its own. I didn't ask it to. It identified the themes. And what told me was that it showed me obviously where there's certain companies that are really leaning into privacy more than others. And I actually it was a revelation to me that Google and Meta, being the two that were actually providing the most transparent information and just being very upfront about how they're using people's data within the models themselves. That made sense to me. They've been in the game for a while. They've been doing a lot of this stuff in terms of data collection, usage. They have stakeholders, public companies, a lot more to lose in that space. So that made sense to me. And then I realized, well, OpenAI and Claude, Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT are actually, like research says right now, they are the top 2 high-performing GPT models. And those 2 models are actually being a little shady in terms of like not sharing how they're using everything. There's just a lot of stuff missing in certain areas. And, one thing that's actually interesting, I think GDPR might require this, but when there's changes to privacy policies, typically the companies have to email, some of these pages. And I think ChatGPT, they might have updated it, but they say things like, if we change our privacy policies, the changes will be reflected on this page. So they're not going to send out an email unless law requires it. So it kind of really shows you that there's some sort of a division between innovation and building transparent AI. And part of their innovation is they're protecting their proprietary nature of what they're building. So that's why I tell anyone, if you're using these models, just be really mindful about what you're using. And if you're uncomfortable, don't use them. Don't use them. Don't integrate them into your whole business. And there's plenty other ways that you can interact with them in a safe way. So I think we're coming down to our last couple slides here. So want to just kind of talk about ethics and AI regulation, current landscape today. So just a general trend and theme we're seeing, some market research that was done in this world is that there's a rise of AI ethics researchers, compliance specialists, and technology specialists, chief ethics officers as well. So obviously, this is something that, I think a lot of us knew was coming, that there'd be new roles evolving as a result of this, but it's a step in the right direction. I think a lot of companies are making active efforts to show their stakeholders and themselves to hold themselves accountable, because we can't just integrate AI into our businesses without having some form of internal regulation outside of the laws and regulations that we have to comply to externally as well. Lots of principles that are super, super important in terms of just AI regulation and transparency. One of the most important is transparency, explainability, fairness, safety, responsibility, accountability. There's so many different things that go into building these types of systems that companies are now teaming up with. There's a lot of global efforts happening too now, but there's a lot of private and government now finally coming together. We see it now in the United States. There was an executive order that was passed last November that went into effect, creating lots of boards, lots of agencies. One of the biggest things that came out of that is a pilot called the National Artificial Intelligence Research Resource, which is really bringing together private and regulation and government and showing how we can be innovative and discover ways to use AI, but also we're building responsible AI that is not harmful to the world around us, is not biased. And so there's a lot of efforts between these worlds colliding now. And truthfully, in the last 2 years, they probably was in the background, but it was not a main priority. But I think a lot of focus, especially having an election year in the US, deepfakes are a huge concern for a lot of people to think about too. And just overall, like when you look at this map, this is where we are at the beginning of 2024, but it's not going to be like this at the end of 2024, and it's not going to be like this next year. And this is actually a tracker you'll have access to. It shows you which state laws are actually, in terms of compliance, what bills are being passed for each state where they have AI-related things in progress. But I mean, federally, it's a concern. It's a huge thing that's being talked about. Europe really led the charge by having their AI Act, which was enacted officially, I think, on the 13th. It's been in progress for a couple of years now, for sure. And I think it will be implemented within the next 2 years officially, because it'll take a while to roll out all the things that they have. But that really set the bar. And I think the US, caught up, and we're all starting to realize how powerful these systems are. And so there's so much focus on it now at a business, at a C-suite level, but also, different legislation, different bodies of legislators and people talking about it more now than ever. So personally, as an AI consultant, I feel a lot more happy to know that and to see that, because I feel like the last 2 years, everyone was like, what's going on? And people were like, I don't know. So it's comforting now. In terms of bias, seeing this, it's very difficult to say we can control and mitigate all forms of bias, but there are lots of bias that exist at a foundational level within some of the models we might be using. The things that we can do to protect ourselves is just recognize it, if we can identify it and how we can reduce it. Well, if you're training something from scratch, if you have a model you're building, it goes down to having diverse training data, having an audit to that model, having some form of bias detection software. If you are using something that comes out of OpenAI or Google, and you're using one of their APIs and it's coming into your business and you're building something off of that, and then that model goes crazy and now it could actually impact your business too. Well, you can actually have a layer of protection, and that's where it's important to have some form of developers or someone that's trained that understand those APIs, where you can build some form of layer that can kind of self-audit or detect if there's something that's off in terms of communication or potential bias that might exist in the information that's flowing from these systems. But it just goes back to having an awareness, right? Feedback, enabling people to speak up. If they see something, having features in your platforms or using the features where there's thumbs up, thumbs down, giving reasons, because feedback loops retrain the models and they really support how we continue to advance and build AI, or how we use AI as consumers. And lastly, I'm going to wrap things up by calling out, these are just 10 unbelievable best practices. I feel if you take anything away from today's session, I hope it's these 10, because if you're planning on using AI, you are using AI, or you want to, this is the type of mindset I think we want to have as business owners. Obviously creating an effective way for us to identify automation opportunities, or even going back to that AAA framework, right? Having your use cases kind of mapped out in a way where you can just have a full awareness over the business and where there's opportunities. 2, have an inventory of systems, have a documentation, have an audit trail for where you're using AI, because the laws can change tomorrow and you might be expected to be in compliance, and you don't want to be digging for where you've been using AI the whole time. 3, put safeguards in your contracts. Talk to a lawyer, figure it out, but start to protect yourselves. I don't know how insurance companies are going to start responding to this as well if people are heavily using AI. But the more, risk you take on in your business, you want to make sure you're protected in that respect. If it makes sense, like you might just be using AI for like a couple things, but if you're using AI and you're selling services based off of algorithms that are in your business, you want to make sure that you are protected in that way. Continue to review policies. It's a given, right? Terms of use, things are changing. You want to make sure you're not putting your business at risk there. Have a clear strategy. Know your short-term and your long-term generative AI strategy. Just know what it takes to get you from point A to point B. You don't have to figure out the next 3 years. And even if you did, it's probably a waste of time because the pace of technology is changing so quickly that it's very hard to predict how 2 to 3 years is actually going to look from today. Prioritize data management. Listen, garbage in, garbage out. I tell all of my clients, crappy data, crappy models, right? So you want to make sure you have the data you want, high quality data. It's not about volume, it's about the quality. It's about making sure you're getting the right information. If you are using your AI, if you're using AI in your businesses, it's only going to reflect the quality of what you put into it. Contingency plans, have something in place in case you're using AI and it's external facing your business, a chatbot, something, right? If it malfunctions, how do you respond to that? Engage with experts, talk to people, network. I have found just the knowledge sharing in these types of communities is so important because things are changing so quickly. You want to have a network of people that you can engage with that can kind of keep you up to speed on things and share their experience with different AI tools and applications. Manage your subscriptions because you might be paying for something today that might be a feature in another platform you're paying for. So be mindful of that. And subscriptions can get pretty crazy and add up. $20 a month sounds cheap when it's just one tool. But then when you pay $20 a month for so many amount of tools, it starts to get it starts to be a little bit of a nonsense. So you want to make sure that you're managing that appropriately. And then literacy is last. Continuing to promote that and thinking about how important it is to have an AI mindset in a business, but also continuing to encompass that human-centric type of business model that I think all of us want to keep to in our businesses, but promoting that literacy, promoting those opportunities for your employees, your workforce, extremely important. So I will stop there and we can go to Q&A.
Jacqueline, thank you so much. This was so insightful. We got a lot of great information today. And so I just want to dive into a couple questions. I know that we are running close on time. Just want to hammer home some of the privacy stuff. You touched on it, but overall, are there types of info that should just never go into a Gen AI's platform?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the appendix, you guys will have access to, there are a list of, I think I flash it really quickly, but there's a lot of data points that I would completely recommend. Anything that's proprietary to your business, can't talk now. I would say, the givens, the PII, social security numbers, birthdays, things that you wouldn't want, especially if you're using anything for your clients' information, you got to have conversations with them too, right? Because you want to be really cognizant over how they might want or might not want you to be using AI, on their behalf to get something done quickly. But the data points I have in the appendix, there's a lot of them. Highly recommend looking at that because I think that will start to make you think differently about what you're uploading. And like I said, like even though we pay for some form of privacy when we pay for models, there are just certain things that, I hate to say don't always trust it, but don't always trust it. Like use your judgment as a professional. And I would say look at those data points and make judgments off that.
Of course. And so on the subject of ownership, we had someone ask about the intellectual property concerns that have to do with AI generated images. What should people who put their art on the internet know?
Yeah, totally. Great question. So I see a lot of people giving, like, for example, a lot of citations now, guidance around that. Researchers are doing it too, but I think actually schools and education is leading the way in this as well, because they're obviously injecting that into their college and high school experiences for students. So I've actually been looking at like MLA and Chicago like APA style format to best practices is to follow those guidelines. And if you're going to use an image or you're going to use something, it doesn't hurt to just say, image created from this. Maybe you don't have to put the whole prompt, but you can describe the prompt from this model on this day, just using that type of mindset, because until there's something that's a little bit more clear, I think that has been the best practice that a lot of people, researchers and educators have been doing.
Yeah, that is a great note. Thank you for that. And then on the subject of, excuse me, should artists or designers be concerned that their images are being used to train models? And
Totally
how should they
fair.
navigate that?
Yeah, it's completely a valid concern. And I remember reading something, it really hit home with me, especially now if you guys are following like the Sora model, which is now
Yeah.
coming out, and that's unbelievably disruptive, especially if you're in the world of cinematography, video, and media and all of that. Yeah, I mean, if you're concerned, there are lawsuits that are being filed if you have reasonable belief. And I'm not a lawyer by any means, but I would say there are lawyers now training in these IP cases as it relates to AI models. And so start to study to see what these lawsuits are actually happening. Like there are artists now filing against OpenAI for sure, and start to see like what precedent is being generated in those cases, because that's going to set the tone for artist rights in the future. If you have a like true suspicion and something is blatantly obvious, then I say lawyer up, because there's definitely they might come back and say fair use, but there's definitely there are cases and arguments. Again, not a lawyer, but 100% don't go down without a fight in terms of what's important to you if you have a very distinct style and you feel that it's completely being generated without your consent. So
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think that we may have time for one more quick question. Let's see. So for an entrepreneur who wants to get up to speed quickly on some of the tools, other than, this really great presentation, what resource would you suggest for people thinking about how best to integrate these into their operations or marketing and things like that?
yeah, so the best way I've learned truthfully is through research papers, actually reading papers, and that's more like technical, but tools, there are amazing newsletters. There are people that literally are making businesses out of communicating the latest and greatest to the world around them in the form of, what tools are out there, what new developments. I would say subscribe to those newsletters. They come to your inbox every so often. They'll keep you up to date on great new things. Stay plugged in with your vendors, like have an understanding over what's on their roadmap, know what you might have access to in the next 6 months or a year based off of their own development in terms of AI tools, and network. Like the biggest thing people are going to do for themselves, it's going to bring them the quickest amount of learning curve in terms of AI, is talking to other people that are interested, just equally as interested in learning about AI. So
That's great.
and you
And
could find that like Facebook, there's groups
mhm.
on Facebook, LinkedIn groups, Discord has a lot of channels. Just get yourself in there and you won't regret it.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And on these newsletters, is there one in particular you really like?
I do. And I'm actually going to my inbox right now to see the name of it. Let me see. I think this one's called the Neuron. So I'm giving them a little bit of a plug right now. But
Okay.
yeah, they're really good. So the Neuron is they send me stuff. I don't know what the frequency is, but it's definitely maybe a couple times a week. And it covers everything. It covers stuff like what's going on in the news in terms of AI, model developments, the gossip, because there's a lot of gossip in the world of AI too. And knowing what tools are out there, how people are using them. So I find that there's a lot of interesting stuff to learn there.
Great. Excuse me. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.